Onward. Welcome back to Shun for Good Reason. I'm Anna.
I'm Tess.
Hey, Tess. Today we're talking about vicarious trauma. Are you so excited?
You're just using fancy words now.
I always use fancy words. You should know this about me. So, the problem with vicarious trauma is that you constantly experience people in your job, in your case education, in my case nursing, and in our past religion, where we were internalizing other people's trauma because we were exposed to it constantly, and people were telling us about it constantly. And what they're doing is telling you about their trauma, and you're experiencing it vicariously because you're empathizing with this person, but you don't necessarily have any input into what is happening or what they're doing or what happened. You're just experiencing this entirely third person.
It's the secondhand
really
smoke
hard.
of the therapy
It's
world.
the secondhand smoke of the therapy world. It is difficult because they're not telling it to you because they want help. They're not telling it to you because you can help. They're just emoting at you so they can process, and you are there to internalize everything that they're telling you.
Isn't that just having relationships?
In a lot of ways, yes, it is. But only if those people are a relationship that feels comfortable sharing trauma, but not for the reason of getting help or support, just so they can share it with somebody and somebody can be a witness to it. Because, as we talked about in the original episode of this, we are not meant, hi doggy, we're not meant to carry the suffering of the world. We are meant to witness it. And people feel the power of someone being there simply to witness their suffering.
I struggle with, I guess that's really hard to differentiate between witnessing and carrying. And I feel like witnessing is carrying in many cases.
Which is what vicarious trauma is.
Yeah.
Because their purpose is for you to witness, and your experience is experiencing.
Yeah, like I don't know. I have a root. I mean, I feel like that's why Doctor Who had a hard time. Like, you know, every season Doctor Who feels like, you know, and they do it on purpose, obviously, but like the Doctor's kind of losing it.
The Doctor's losing it, and some.
But because he does carry what
some
he witnesses,
young
or
British girl is brought along for this experience, not because they're helpful, not because they're experienced, not because they can help, but because the presence of a witness to the trauma is its own therapy. And the experience of the witness to the trauma, or the experience of the companions to the Doctor, is always, I don't know how to go back. I don't know what to do. I was left alone with all of these feelings and all of this knowledge, and I have no idea what to do with it. So they form networks and organizations and everything they can do to support each other through this. And they always show up for the Doctor later.
Yeah.
Because they've been transformed through vicarious trauma to an entirely different iteration of themselves.
Well, I think part of this is my frustration with Buddhism. Which, like, I want to like Buddhism.
Oh, same. It's so trendy to like Buddhism.
Yeah. Well, it's like kind of perceived as like the opposite of Christianity in a lot of ways.
Ram Dass and that whole liturgist arc where everybody was getting to be Buddhist and that sort of shit. Like, it's so nice. Like, nobody cared about everything. They were just like, and doing a lot of weed.
What are the primary...
I knew when I couldn't do weed that I couldn't be Buddhist.
I keep looking for my phone and it's recording things.
It is.
But one of the primary tenets of Buddhism is that you're supposed to not be attached to things.
Yeah.
Because being attached to things causes suffering.
Yes.
Because suffering is bad.
Yes.
I have my opinion, for whatever it's worth, in this crazy universe, is that most people would hear the phrase suffering is bad and are going to say, yes, that is true.
But it's not.
But it's not. Because suffering,
if suffering
is just...
was bad, no child would ever learn to read.
Humans wouldn't exist, is my opinion.
Yes.
Like, we humans wouldn't exist, towers wouldn't exist, Wi-Fi wouldn't exist, like our agriculture wouldn't exist. Like, you can't have anything without suffering. Like you don't get things. You don't get to knowledge.
You don't get to live with a cat.
Without suffering, right?
Yeah.
Right? You have to... growth requires suffering.
Right.
Right? Like, it's just part of life. It's weird.
For instance, we're growing garlic right now.
Yeah.
But garlic has a hard shell.
Uh-huh.
And unless that hard shell splits to let out the seedling,
yeah,
there's not going to be any growth to the garlic. Like, you have to suffer to grow. I feel, and obviously this is my feeling, but it does not seem fair to tell people that if they are suffering, they're doing life wrong.
Oh, for sure.
And I know it's fair that anybody who is an actual Buddhist who listens to this will argue with me, and then I'll learn more things, and that'll be great.
For sure. Yeah.
But that tenet that has been passed on to Western culture is
right.
that if you are experiencing suffering, you're doing something wrong, and that is not true.
Yeah. Well, it's just not... I have, in my life, I try not to universalize things. I have found, well, just for starters, that I like suffering. And everybody I know, as far as I can tell, really likes suffering.
That's why people keep doing marathons.
Yeah. Well, because of growth, right? Well, sometimes it's because of growth. Sometimes it's just because people really like to complain.
People love to complain. I love to complain.
Yeah, complaining is fun.
No, complaining is one of the primary ways we build community. It's very valuable.
Right. And then you have connection and belonging, and because you share complaints, and that whole idea of protesting and shared suffering, right? Like suffering is a huge part of the human experience in a positive way, right? Like, and it's amazing to me that it gets very easily dismissed in religious discussions. Like, what, are you just not paying attention to all of human history?
No, they're not.
Like,
because
it's amazing how quickly religious discussions dismiss human history. It's really amazing to me.
In religious discussion, suffering is a means to being more like a deity.
Yeah. In
my experience. So if you are suffering, you are becoming more like a deity. So you should never complain about that.
Right.
You should just be grateful for it.
Well,
which takes away any community that could have been formed by mutual suffering, which is the entire premise behind school.
Yeah.
That's the valuable part of school, because yes, you're learning things. That's great. But the most valuable thing that I've found in school is a cohort of classmates who are all experiencing suffering together.
Right.
And helping each other get through it and become better people because of it.
But
you can't do that if you don't acknowledge that this is suffering.
And you have meaning.
Yes.
But not freedom.
Yes.
And that's a struggle. Like, there's this weird idea of that, and I've been thinking about this, is this idea of freedom that we've elevated really highly as a see, my voice, man, it's a problem. But we've elevated freedom really highly as a value. That's the word.
Mm-hmm. And an aspiration.
Especially in America, or I should say the United States. We've elevated freedom as a value and aspiration, and I was watching. I've been rewatching Star Trek Picard
Mm.
as part of spring break. It's really,
Mm.
really good. If you haven't seen it, good television show. And one of the bad guys, Q, was talking about the only way to have freedom is to love no one. And then right after that he says, but how meaningless is that? Or something. I'm paraphrasing, but
Well, because it's part of Q's ongoing existential crisis where he steps into mortal coils
yeah, he's
to try
omnipotent
specifically.
and omniscient.
Yeah, he's omnipotent and omniscient, but one of the members of the Q Continuum, his only reason for stepping into mortal coils was specifically to get them to convince him that he did not need to end his own existence. And
so maybe not omniscient, definitely omnipotent.
yeah, he's not entirely omniscient. He
Yeah.
feels omniscient, and
Yeah.
he's supposed to feel omniscient, and he wants you to believe that he's
Right.
omniscient.
But he's clearly not.
But he's clearly not.
Yeah.
He's always on the
You
suffering is what makes mortals mortal.
Yeah.
Sort of
Well, it's true though.
It is.
Because we die.
We do die, but
I don't know that's inherently suffering necessarily, but
dying
it's inherently
does not have to be suffering.
But it's inherently an end.
It is. But the problem is making suffering spiritualized or normalized to the point where you're like,
Oh, for
life
sure.
is pain, highness.
Yeah.
Anyone who says differently
That
is
is-
selling
yeah.
something. That's the opposite of that. Because yes, we're gonna suffer and
You're
it's gonna be
right.
a thing and we have to figure it out. But you can't just assume that everything you do is pain, is suffering, and that's the way it's supposed to be. Because that's not a healthy way to live, and it leads to burnout. That's
Yeah.
not okay.
Right.
People stay too long in overwhelming and harmful roles when they believe that suffering is normal and to be expected and to be spiritualized. And that's not okay, because you need to be able to step back from that suffering without abandoning your values, which is what Picard is always teaching Q. It's like, yes, it's really hurtful to be human, to be mortal is hard, but that doesn't mean you have to be in that hard space all the time. You can step back and enjoy the being mortal. One of the people who was doing the Schwartz rounds with me this week was telling us about something very hurtful that had happened in his life previously. But his takeaway was, I look in the mirror every day, and every day I see a new gray hair. Every day I see a new wrinkle. Because I'm still here. And that was really cool.
Yeah.
Because you're still here. Because we keep looking in the mirror or looking at the scale or looking at whoever's giving us Botox. Not that I've ever done that. One of these days I'll do it just so I can say that I have. But we keep looking at those things and being like, and doing it because we are ignoring or denying the inevitable. We're trying to stave off time and stave off Q and stave off all of that without realizing I am here. And my body is telling me a story, and it's a good story. Because when was the last time you looked at Patrick Stewart, Jean-Luc Picard, and were angry at him for showing another wrinkle? You can't be, because every time you look at Patrick Stewart and you see another wrinkle, you're like, oh, I bet that one's from Picard. I bet that one's from Next Generation. That one is definitely from Macbeth. Like, that person is a story in a way that a lot of us don't get to be publicized as stories.
Yeah.
But that person has suffered in ways that we will never understand. And it's good.
Right.
But it's not spiritual.
It's not suffering for the sake of suffering.
Exactly.
That's
it's suffering for the sake of experience and for the sake of being
love.
human.
Yeah.
But not for the sake of sticking with something
right.
when it's not good for you.
Yeah, suffering for the sake of suffering is bad.
Which is why TV shows end. Because we're talking a lot about TV shows, sci-fi shows specifically, like Nathan Fillion, Patrick Stewart, Alan Tudyk. We're talking about things ending. Doctor Who, yeah. Talking about things ending. That's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing for something to end when it's no longer good for you. Kurigawa is no longer doing Doctor Who because they were being so non-committal about what they were willing to do, having been in conjunction with Disney, that Kurigawa can no longer be part of that series. That does not mean that that was a bad thing, and that whatever line has probably appeared on their forehead is a bad line. That means that they were able to participate and experience and witness and step back when it was appropriate. Which is not something that is allowed in the religious world or in a lot of the sports worlds. If you're something, you have to be something forever in religious and sports worlds.
Why do you say sports world?
I say sports worlds because we are doing a little bit of a fitness bent to the podcast, but also because I've been watching Alex Honnold and Tim Tebow and people like that.
Man.
Never being
That's
allowed
a throwback.
to step back.
What do you mean never allowed? I'm sorry, I'm just trying to understand where you're coming from, Mike.
Because that's been their identity for so long. They're not
Okay.
allowed to have an identity outside of that. As far as social media and news is concerned, when you look at anything that involves them, it's always going to reference past things that they have done to give context. But it also does not allow for a movement forward in their situation. Alex Honnold is never going to be allowed to be more than what Alex Honnold
rock
is
climber?
now. Yes.
Okay.
Than an incredibly successful rock climber. If Alex Honnold decided he wanted to be something else in his life, he would not be allowed to do that fully without people bringing in his past history. And in a way that's good, considering that he's done a lot of things. But in a way that's harmful, considering that any trauma that he has witnessed or experienced in that point, he is not going to be allowed to move past from. And all of us are like that in a way. We all have our pasts.
Right.
We all have the people who have witnessed our pasts. And we'll never be allowed to move past that past. In a way. It doesn't matter what I do going forward. Some people will always view me as somebody who was decent at clarinet at this point or did this for Jesus' kingdom at that point.
Right.
If you or I were to die right now, and our parents were to throw us a funeral, I say that like throwing a party because it's basically the same in that world that we were in. If they were to throw us a funeral, they would do the same thing that a recent obituary that we saw was, where they're like, this person led the praise team in high school and was so devoted to Jesus. And they would erase the past 15 years of our life and just go with what they liked. Okay.
I have thoughts. I'm trying to figure out how to get there. The
I can see them on your face.
Yeah.
But it's that part where people stick you in.
So we're talking about vicarious trauma.
Yep.
And we have trauma for our past.
Yes. And people will stick you there.
People can't, right, but I mean, the thoughts I have go back at my job. We talk a lot about your journey, and everybody has their own journey, and you could not get where you are now without your journey, which is it's like if you imagine your life as a boat, and it's on the seas and it's going somewhere, and it has gone somewhere, right? It's gone on a path.
Ideally.
You got here somehow, right? I guess it could have potentially not gone very far, but
it's still gone somewhere.
I don't think that applies in our case, but yeah.
Yeah.
No matter what it is, it's a journey of something, right? And then you can, but then are you at the steering wheel and deciding where it's going to go next, and choosing to interact with other boats or not, right? Or are you just letting the sea take you wherever it wants, right? Because you could just step back from the steering wheel and let the sea take you wherever, and you're still going to go somewhere.
Yeah.
Right? Time doesn't stop just because you're not steering the ship. Which I feel like some people think is the case. But it's not. You're still going somewhere. But how much are you taking what happened? I mean, I can't. I have such a hard time imagining being Alex Honnold or I don't know, Tim Tebow, I guess. That really is a throwback.
I know, right?
No one's throwing me.
He never gets to be anything else, though.
To me and you, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't know the guy.
You don't.
I mean...
But that man
honestly,
will forever carry the vicarious trauma of every person who watched him play. Because you were bearing witness.
I was reading about Draco Malfoy. What's his name? Tom Felton.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he played Draco Malfoy. And he started, if I remember right, doing that role at the age of 13. I think.
Right around there, yeah.
And their HBO is just coming out with a new series. And they cast a new Draco Malfoy. And I'm pretty sure he's 13 as well.
And I saw his picture, and he is the most Gen Alpha Draco Malfoy that could ever exist. And oh my god.
Yeah. But I was reading about how Tom Felton, grew up in, this acting world, and he ended up going through lots of, he ended up struggling with addiction and having to go to rehab, and he had a really hard journey as acting Draco Malfoy, and at the same time we've seen I've seen beautiful things from Tom Felton on TikTok, and completely separate from Harry Potter world or the movies and stuff.
Right.
Just him doing TikToks where he's been very genuine and honest and supported trans people, and these are the things I've seen witnessed from Tom Felton, just sporadically through my life and his life. But I was just reading about this yesterday, and I had no idea that he had these this huge bout with addiction and having to go through rehab, and people, his friends trying to help him out, and I don't even know all the difficulties that where all that came from and stuff. I don't know. I have no idea, because I don't know.
You never will.
It was not that detailed of an article I was reading. Yeah, I probably never will. But maybe he'll write a book. We'll know more. But anyway, and what's my point? I mean, my witness of Tom Felton being Draco Malfoy until yesterday was him acting out the character, right? I saw that in the movies. And then I saw him like on TikTok being a very kind, supportive human being to other human beings. Just, I mean, very broadly speaking. I don't even remember exactly. It was a long time ago. Years ago now, when I saw what I'm thinking of. And then I read that article yesterday where I found out about his addictions. Right? And that's my witness of Tom Felton.
Mm-hmm.
And overall, I feel like it's positive. And I'm trying to yesterday I realized there was a lot of trauma there.
Yeah.
Right? And so now I have the vicarious trauma of like, oh shit, this guy went through a lot of crappy stuff. And then had to deal with addiction and trying to figure that whole thing out. And I didn't even know until yesterday, even though I've known who this person is for quite a few years now. Yeah. Right? And what I'm trying to say, in the most roundabout way possible, is that my vicarious trauma of this person brings me closer to that person in recognizing how human they are.
Mm-hmm. Did you feel guilty?
Guilty. No?
Because a lot of people feel guilty. Because you've seen this person, in person or not, and you didn't realize
They were going through stuff.
what was going on.
No, I didn't feel guilty.
That's good.
Because I try not to.
I feel like if you had been more judgmental, you probably would have felt more guilty.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Because a lot of our circle are very judgmental of anybody involved with that franchise.
That's a good point, though.
At this point.
The more judgmental of a person you are, the more likely you are to feel guilty about things as you find out more about them as a human, though, right?
Yeah.
And that's part of watching. Like, how are you watching? Are you being judgy in your watching? That's going to affect your watching.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that goes back to what I was saying. Like, what are you going to say in that moment? What an idiot, right? You could say that.
You could say that.
That's very judgy.
But he was 13. He was 13 and somebody signed a contract for him.
Oh, for sure.
What more could he do?
Right.
That's part of that charitable reading that we try to do.
Yeah.
Is why? Why did that person do that? Was it their fault? Could they have done better? Would I have done better? I wouldn't have done better. If I found myself in their situation, if I found out that I had dedicated so many years of my life to the work of a transphobic human, what would I do with my life? And could I fix it? No, I couldn't fix it because that was a person who wrote a thing that I was hired to play on. The difference there, I feel like, is a lot of how much I feel like it's my responsibility to save the world. Because if I felt like it was my responsibility to save the world, I would feel a lot more guilty about a lot more things.
Well, I feel like the whole idea of vicarious trauma is that it's kind of, I said it's like secondhand smoke.
Yeah.
And I think we think of that a lot. But I feel like it's kind of actually backwards because the level of toxicity that we receive, I feel like, relies more on our response than on what's actually happening to the other person or the other person's trauma. Because like the other person usually is not in direct control of the trauma they're going through or experiencing or responding to or whatever it is, right? Like trauma is a very it's like having cancer. Right? Like you're not in control of whether you have cancer or not. Once you have cancer, like, you just have cancer, right? Like, once you have trauma, you just have trauma. Once you've gone through the thing, it's just there, and then you're trying to deal with it. And if you're somebody on the outside trying to respond to somebody who has trauma, they're not their actions aren't it's not that they're smoking more cigarettes. How it affects you, it's not because you could affect. Oh gosh, how am I trying to say? The toxicity comes from your response to this human. If I'm sitting there responding to this human by judging them,
or by being traumatized,
or yeah, I'm getting a lot of secondhand smoke, right?
Yeah.
I'm getting as much as I possibly can breathe in.
This is one of those things where you feel like you're holier the closer you experience the trauma. So, essentially, you have an N95 and a half-face respirator in your hands. One is an N95, one is a half-face respirator.
A what?
Half-face respirator. It's.
I don't know that one.
I have
Better
one.
than an N95, I'm assuming. About the same.
In some cases, yes,
Oh, okay.
it is. But it's a very good mask.
Okay.
We'll say.
Yeah.
We've got masks in our hands, and instead of using these masks in our hands, we step closer to the person.
Yeah.
And breathe in as
Right.
they exhale.
Yeah.
Instead of actually using the tools that we have.
Yeah. That's a
and
good
protecting
analogy.
ourselves.
No, that's a great analogy. Which is just, the tools are empathy, love,
Yes.
care,
Empathy, love, care, and stepping.
mindfulness. Yeah.
The mindfulness
Stepping
is the
back.
biggest thing, though.
Yeah.
Because if you're not taking a break, if you're going from crisis to crisis to crisis to crisis to crisis without stepping back between and being like, I just experienced a crisis.
Yeah.
And I need to recognize that that was a crisis to that person and not to me.
Right.
There's a lot that goes on there.
Yeah.
Because if you don't step back and recognize crises to other people as crises to other people, you will experience them as crises to yourself.
Right. Which is why social media is so bad.
It is.
'Cause
That's a huge reason why social media is so
experience
bad.
crises to other people's crises to yourself over and over
You're
and over again.
experiencing every single person having a mental
Dang.
breakdown and having bombs rain down on them and having all of those things and not having a place to be like, that is anything that has happened is not directly my fault.
Yeah.
Because social media preys off of you not acknowledging that that in specific is not your fault.
Yeah. Or your problem, or your
Tom Felton
crisis, or
Tom
your...
Felton having a mental breakdown is not your fault
Right.
for reading Harry Potter.
Right. Oh, for sure. And in that case...
But that's not what social media says. Social
Right.
media says,
you should
read
feel guilty about it.
The Deathly Hallows, therefore, Tom Felton having a mental breakdown is your fault directly.
Yeah.
And that is something that a lot of people that we grew up with / went to Bible school with experience very directly. They experience every single
Well, they do in other
drone
cases too.
strike as being their fault specifically.
Yeah.
And
Well,
that's very,
I have a hard time with
very
the
unhealthy.
transgender things.
Oh.
That's
Yeah.
what, like, I don't feel guilty about Tom Felton. Like,
you
I
mean the transgender things concerning Harry Potter?
No, I mean a
Or-
little bit, but mostly just like the I mean more of the actual, like, what am I trying to say? The real world things happening to transgender people that get filtered through social media, and then I see them, like laws, anti-trans laws, and
Like Kansas.
and IOC. That was a very recent thing. Yeah, Kansas is a big one.
The Kansas one this week where transgender people are no longer allowed to have driver's licenses.
Yeah, that was a few weeks ago, actually.
Yeah.
But this week was the IOC banning trans people from competing in the Olympics.
Mm.
In 2028.
Yep.
And
so requiring genetic testing
right.
for every female.
Every female.
But only females.
Right. Yeah. Right. It's a lot easier for me to feel guilty about those things. Personally, it's just a personal thing. And it's exactly that though. Like, and it's social media feeding that me to me in such a way that it's my fault.
Yeah.
Or where I perceive it as my fault.
You didn't like the right things, you didn't sign the right petitions, you didn't do the right thing.
Yeah.
And now it's your fault that this is happening.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Which is how they keep you focused on things that are not international politics.
Yeah. And that pisses me off too, but
yeah. There's a lot of things to piss you off. But the question that we want to answer right now is, there's so many things to piss you off. How do you be okay? And for my part, that means taking actual breaks between patients. Ignoring certain things, distracting myself from certain things. This week, specifically, it means I am planting gardens and doing projects around the house and very intentionally focusing down from the international and down from the national and down from the local and into the micro-local, which is, what am I doing? What is my family doing? What can we do to make ourselves be more okay, to spend more time together, to be more intentional about engaging our own family and our own family unit and just calming things. I've been making a lot of bread.
Yeah. We've
been brewing kombucha. We've been finally making the turkey soup that we've intended to do for 3 months. Yeah. We've been doing lots of things involving dirt. Like literal dirt. Coming down from what everybody wants us to be angry about and into where are we going to get peas and cucumbers this summer.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to fix Hollywood and I'm not going to fix Israel, but I can help my own amygdala be okay with sleeping this summer.
For sure. Well, and asking questions like, what do I love to do? Right? And what makes me happy? And what... Like I mean, it sounds cliche, but I think those are real, true big questions, I think, that are harder than they sound.
Oh, yeah. Well, and those are questions that we weren't allowed to ask for the most of our life because it didn't matter what we loved or what we liked or what we wanted to do. It was just for the good of religion.
Yeah. Yeah. Religion or capitalism.
Yeah.
But, but I think you can try and step past it and be like, what do I actually like? And I genuinely think that's a hard question. And I know it is for me. It's a super hard question for me. I really struggle with that one. Personally. But there's a cat.
You like the cat? Well, that's a good place to start.
This is a pain, but I still like her.
She is suffering.
Yes. Cats are very good at suffering.
They are.
It's very impressive. They are very happy about suffering.
What are you going to do, though?
What am I going to do? About what?
About you.
About me?
And literally nothing else.
That-
That's the problem.
I'm gonna.
Because how are you going to do something about you and not Tom Felton and the author of Harry Potter and the whole war that is going on against our will and the person who is trying to be in charge of our country but spends 16 minutes talking about how he talked to the manufacturer of Sharpies.
Well, it's looking pretty likely I'll just get my balls cut off about
That's fair.
it. I always have an extreme answer for everything.
You usually do. Yes, orchiectomy is also a thing we've experienced talking about in the past few weeks. Oh God. I cannot believe we got so far into that doctor's appointment with neither of us remembering that you had a vasectomy. Like, we were well into the part where we were being asked about whether or not we wanted to do sperm banking before either of us remembered that part.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's going to be entertaining to me forever.
Yeah.
It was just such a non-issue.
You would have a perfect. Oh well, I've had a vasectomy, and it was funny to me that I said that before saying that we have 5 children.
She was just like, "Have you thought about sperm banking?" And we were like, "Please no."
Yeah.
Please no.
Idea. Poor lady.
Oh God.
No, it's funny because it's like one of the biggest issues when it comes to bottom surgery and orchiectomies or vasectomies is everybody's like, what about children? And it's just such a non-issue for
They're just
me.
like, please, can we not have more? Can you please make sure we don't ever have more?
Such a non-issue.
They're amazing. They're the best humans in the whole wide world. We cannot do more than this.
Which makes the doctor who does orchiectomies very happy because then, like, I'm just the simplest case that has ever existed for them. Like, I'm pretty sure they get that almost never.
They do.
I wish I would have asked. What was the last time you had somebody in here wanting an orchiectomy who had multiple children? Already. I'll bet it's been a while. I'll bet. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. That'd be interesting. You're unusual people. In my experience. I don't know.
Yeah. Given that you're unusual, what advice would you give to someone who was experiencing vicarious trauma and needed to handle it or take a step back or learn how to embrace it? Given that you precept a lot of people coming into a job where you see a lot of trauma which you're not directly able to process yourselves.
I mean, for vicarious trauma is like my first thought is just try not to make it about you. Because it's not about like it, which is harder than it sounds.
That is so much harder than it sounds.
Like it sounds easy and simple, but it's not. Because you always want to make it about you.
Well, because that's
everybody
your
always wants to
perspective
make it about them. I do. Everybody does. It's our go-to thing is to make it about us. And it's not. It's not about you. and that's probably yeah, probably the biggest thing I would say is just don't, whatever you do your best not to make it about you, and because that includes stepping back, and also it also includes being part of it, right? Because you're still going to be a part of it because you're there, you're watching, you're interacting. But if you can make it not about you, you're much more likely to make it helpful. As opposed to, if you make it about you, then it's a power struggle, and then it's arguing, and then it's, then you're just causing more trauma.
You're just
to
trying to solve
everybody
your
involved.
own trauma by ignoring other people's trauma.
Yeah, it's not actually helpful to get into those situations, and it's hard. Like it's your gut instinct is gonna be to argue. It's gonna be to try and fix it yourself. Like that's my I do both. I want to argue. I also want to try and fix it all by myself. I can't. And like that acknowledgement that I can't fix it, and just trying to remember that this human I'm talking to has to make their own decisions about this problem, and I can't make them make the right decision. I can do what I can to, nudge them along. I can try and say helpful things, but I can't make them do anything. And if I'm trying to make them do something, then I'm not saying helpful things. Right? Those are not helpful things to say if I'm trying to force them to do something. Force them into a black and white decision. Force them into whatever I think the right decision is. It's not going to help them. Even if I do know what the right decision is, which, that's
That's
huge
very
statement
subjective.
to make. Yeah, right. I usually don't assume that. Try not to assume that these days. But even if you are, you can't make them decide that, right?
No.
Even if you're certain you know the right decision, you can't make them make that decision.
And you never have the same information that somebody does dealing with their own life. That's not a thing that happens.
Yeah, not remote. Which has been probably the biggest thing I've learned working with kids.
Yeah.
I know nothing about their lives. Like, as much as I even get to know students who are in my class every day, I even after years, a couple of years, I still know very little about the things that have happened to them, that happened to them when I'm not there. I just don't know.
You don't, and you never can.
Right, I never will. It's not possible. And the best you can do is get to know. You need to develop a relationship with people. Try to get to know them, because that's the only, that's in my mind the only step there that exists towards making it not about you, more likely. Right, because if you actually know somebody and who they are, it's a lot easier to put them into the situation
instead of yourself. Their own context.
Yeah, because you actually know them a little bit, right? And you can't know anybody perfectly, but you can know them better than not knowing them, right? And the more you know them, it really does make it easier to take yourself out of the middle of whatever it is.
You have to take your own context out of their context.
Yeah, and put them in. And like, oh, this is you, and how you see things, and how you deal with things. And this is me being able to see that and actually find things that might be helpful to you. And try and throw those things out there and just leave them there and make it, and leave it up to you. Because, and you can't make them use any of the things that you might provide. You can't force them to make the decisions. You can't assume they're going to do whatever you think they should do. It's not, none of that's going to help you or the other person. It's just going to make you frustrated and them frustrated. If you're trying to make them make whatever decision you think they're supposed to make. But you can help, you can be there, you can watch, you can listen, and you can try and give them tools based on hopefully your relationship with them to help them. And that's all you can do.
Yeah.
And if you put pressure on yourself to do more than that, I think that's when it gets the most burnout, the most toxicity,
Yeah.
the most cynicism.
Exactly, because that's where the trauma stewardship takes place, because you're going to have trauma, vicarious trauma, and personal trauma, but the question is, what are you going to do with it?
Yeah.
One of the things I find most helpful is to just shut the fuck up.
Yeah, usually, yeah. Yeah.
Just let people talk.
Yeah.
You can learn so much from people when they're just talking.
Yeah.
And in my line of work, it's a lot of them talking about how they never thought this would happen to them.
Yeah.
And it's so scary that it's happening to them, and they just wish it hadn't because it happened to somebody similar. And
yeah.
Just being there while they process emotions is such a privilege to me.
Yeah.
And to be able to be there and help them with the very basic necessities of life that they don't even think about needing to need at that point. Because I deal with a lot of family members who are there for their family members who are experiencing something, and they forget that they need to sleep or eat or drink. And being able to be there and say, have you eaten anything? Have you drunk anything? Can you make this test happen faster? Can you make that test happen faster? You can't. Can you? I can't either. I think we should both drink some water about it.
Yeah.
Is incredibly meaningful, and being able to be there for...
Right, and that's just saying, look, this is the thing we can do.
This is the thing we can do.
I can't make you do it, but it's a thing we could do.
Yeah. This is one thing that we can
help.
do to measurably help.
Yeah.
One thing that we can do is take a breath together.
Yeah.
One thing that we can do is not scream at your caregiver. One thing that we can do together is make sure that you actually get enough calories to survive today.
Yeah.
It's very difficult. It's very difficult.
Well, and in both our jobs, it always comes down to very simple things that people can do. Like, you're not trying to get them to like do a 5-year plan and figure out their career, and you know, you're not trying to do complex things. It's always if you're trying to help somebody who's going through trauma and trying to figure something out, it's always something super simple that you're trying to help them do. Like breathe.
Right. Well, because
like literally breathe.
We can't solve the next 15 years of your life.
No.
But you know what we can do is make sure that you're not going to faint.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
That's what we can do.
Yeah. Well,
that's the only thing we can do right now.
Yeah. Well, and breathing is just so simple.
Mm.
And then like it's absolutely necessary for life. Taking a deep breath is telling your sympathetic nervous system to shut up. Right? And your parasympathetic nervous system to take over. And that you're, you know, just tell your body that, believe it or not, we're alive and it's okay. Like,
yeah.
That's all.
Well, and
that's all taking
that's
deep breath in.
honestly one of the biggest parts of my job, both with coworkers and with patients, is, hey, we're here. Everybody's breathing.
Yeah.
And it's okay.
Yeah.
And we all need to make it through the next 6 hours, because we're only 6 hours into our shift right now. Can we please hydrate just a little bit? Can we please breathe?
Yeah.
Just a little bit. Can we please make a plan together? And we'll do our best to follow it, and we'll pivot if that's not it. But either way, we're all here, and you still need to pee. And I still need to stand right next to you so you don't fall over and cause yourself a brain bleed. I'm sorry. But you're gonna need to pee. And then after you pee, I'm gonna have to go pee because this is a really hard thing to watch when I haven't gotten to pee in 6 hours.
Looks so relaxed.
I know. It just looks like you're experiencing a release that I've not gotten in a long time. I know. That's part of it. But the trauma stewardship there is, how do I deal with what I'm watching other people do? And not die because of it. And a lot of that is just taking a deep breath, realizing that you are okay, calming down your nervous system, which does not have a choice but to be activated, and being where you are, no matter what is happening around you.
Yeah.
It's a lot harder than it sounds.
Oh man, kids hate it when I ask them to take deep breaths.
Ugh.
It cracks me up. Like they hate it. Every now and
Everybody
then,
hates it.
I've gotten to a point with a couple kids I work with where they've started to realize that, like, when I say that, I'm just actually trying to help them.
Aww.
and they'll try to do it. But it takes a while to get to that point, because otherwise there's like, you're just trying to fix me. Tell me about it. They get so pissed off because I asked them to take a deep breath.
You know, and with a lot of the people that I precept at my job, they think exactly the same thing. I talk them through a code, and they're like, you just want to fix me by making me take a deep breath. And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, like,
Yes, I do.
Yes, that is the goal.
You're obviously not
They're
okay.
so mad
And
you
we're
want
trying
fix
to
them.
fix you. I'm here too, and I'm trying to fix me.
Yeah.
Can we please be fixed?
People don't want help, man.
But they don't
People
want
have
help.
such a hard time accepting help. Yeah,
They do.
that's probably a whole other conversation, but
No, it's not, because it is the burnout conversation.
yeah, I guess so.
A lot of the burnout conversation is whether or not we are willing to take the help that is offered to us and the places where it's offered to us at the times when it's offered to us. And most of us are not.
Yeah, people don't. I guess I get it.
We want to be holy, and we
Yeah.
want to be healthy, and we want
And
to...
self-sufficient and pull
fix
ourselves
it
up by our
ourselves.
bootstraps.
Yeah.
And sometimes we just need help. And it's so hard to accept help. Even if the help is just someone telling you to breathe.
Yeah.
Like, just that will piss people off. Because you told them to breathe.
It will.
And I get it. Like, you're mad. Like, I know how to breathe. I breathe all the time. Breathing is part of being human and living. Right?
You know, that's really cute until
start
it
to
comes
get
from
mad.
somebody who has a trach. No. And they're saying exactly the same thing, and you know that they're saying that, but they don't have vocal cords because they're breathing through trach. And they're trying to tell you exactly the same things. And unless you take them seriously and understand where they're coming from,
yeah.
you're going to laugh so hard
Yeah.
because it sounds so funny, but they are desperate and panicking,
Yeah.
and you're trying to help them.
Yeah.
And it sounds absolutely hilarious in some ways and absolutely terrifying in most ways.
Yeah.
But you have to meet people where they're at, vocal
Yeah.
cords or no.
Yeah. It's easy. Yeah. Still need to breathe.
And if we have vocal cords, we also still need to breathe.
Yeah. No,
It's so... frustrating that the primary medicine for burnout and overwhelm is just breathe and bear witness.
I think the flip side of that that's so hard is letting somebody else tell you to breathe and be witnessed.
Mm.
And I think that's the rest part that's hard.
Yeah.
Like it's easier to tell somebody to do those things, and they obviously in our experience get pissed off about it. But then
For sure.
and we're all like, why are you so pissed off about it? Then like we get pissed off about resting. Right? Like
Yeah.
and needing help. And
No, I love that.
Like it makes sense when you flip it around because we get pissed about the same things.
absolutely right. The harder part of that is being witnessed.
Yeah, it's
While you're being what you want
Yeah.
to not be witnessed being.
right. Yeah, when you're going through a hard time,
Yes.
which is a lot. At least for me, I don't know. I feel like I'm always going through a hard time.
I know, a lot of us do. I know that my patients, my preceptees, and myself all find it easier to do humanity when we find that somebody is witnessing us and has seen people do this before and knows that it is okay.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
But the release to be willing to be witnessed is very difficult.
Yeah.
Because we're not Instagram worthy at that point.
Yeah. Well, and we're programmed to be individuals
And free.
self-sufficient, and yeah, that's the whole freedom thing,
That's the whole freedom thing. Let's do it at the expense of everyone else.
right? It's the opposite of the witnessing thing,
It is.
or being witnessed, I guess. Yeah, that's interesting.
But how can you bear witness to someone without being willing to have someone bear witness to you?
You can't. They go in and in. You have to have both. That's like the whole acting thing, where you're acting and reacting, right? And both people are acting and reacting is acting because it requires multiple people.
That's what you get for doing improv classes.
Yes, it is.
But no,
That's what
it's a very good point of life is you cannot react without acting.
Yeah, and vice versa. Like when you have that, on average, both pairs of humans. If you have two humans, well, even if you're both witnessing each other, smelling each other, hearing each other, seeing each other.
I don't want to smell people. I don't want people to smell me.
But you do.
I
It happens.
I want to smell
Whether
people,
you
but I don't want them to smell me.
or not, it happens.
Yes. And if it doesn't, you're not humaning.
Right. Yeah. And I don't know. It's hard.
That's what it is
That's
to
my
steward someone's trauma.
That's my But and then you get burnt out smelling people, man.
You do. Which is when you need to let someone smell you.
Oh no.
I know. That's the worst part. But that's the trauma stewardship. If you are not willing to be witnessed, you do not get to bear witness.
You're not willing to be smelled. You must not smell. It really puts it into perspective.
It does. It does. Especially oh my god. The diarrhea I have encountered this week. I try so hard to impress upon my trainees, don't give bowel meds if people don't need bowel meds. And yet...
Because you might have to smell them later.
And yet...
That's probably what you should start saying. You're going to have to smell that person later.
Yeah. Yeah.
It has an impact.
I still have a CNA who may or may not owe me a new pair of scrub pants depending on how these ones come out in the wash.
Oh, no.
Don't give people bowel meds unless you're willing to deal with the consequences.
You might have to smell them later.
You're gonna have to smell them later.
And then they're going to want to smell you.
A lot of them are, and that's real creepy.
You need to be smelled out.
That's true. But that's the problem, Tess, is
I'm never saying I feel seen again. I'm just gonna say I feel smelled.
smells. No, it's way better.
It's way better.
Actually,
I feel
to-
smelled.
To bring it back to where we started this conversation, Doctor Who smells a lot of people whose smell they cannot fix. Just to be there to make sure that somebody knew that that was the smell.
That's good.
Because you have to experience it with someone for it to be real.
Or it doesn't exist.
Otherwise, you don't know it exists.
It's the whole oh wow, I might understand this for the first time ever. The whole if a tree falls in the forest, doesn't make a sound.
No, not unless somebody's there to hear it.
Yeah.
If you poop, does it really smell unless somebody
has
else
to
is
be
there to
to
smell
smell
it?
Not really.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
If you
That's
experience something
interesting.
by yourself, it doesn't. It's not actually an
So
experience.
really, you need two people to hear the tree falling in the forest.
At least two.
Yeah, well, yeah, at least, yeah. That's fascinating.
Community.
Yeah.
That's what trauma stewardship is making sure that you are not the only person feeling the things for someone and yourself.
Yeah. For sure.
And that's why it is such a privilege to get to be the other person.
Right.
Hearing or seeing or smelling what somebody is experiencing.
Yeah. That's why empathy is a thing.
Exactly. To be the other person who knows what that is.
Yeah.
To be the person who somebody tells about, this is why I'm at this school, this is why I'm at this hospital, this is why this is happening, and this is what I felt when that happened.
Yeah.
It's huge. And if you ever feel like you're burnt out from doing that, you need to step back until you can be the appropriate support for that person.
Until you can get smelled.
Exactly. You need to get smelled until you can smell other people.
That's right. That is the moral of the story.
That's right.
You can smell until you can smell other people.
That's right.
I might actually remember this one.
Oh, that's so nice. I love that. What will you remember about that? Not why will you remember. You have to smell people.
You have to smell people. I'm gonna be doing some things people think are a little creepy.
Tess, please don't creepy smell people.
I'm just kidding.
It's gonna be my fault to creepy smell people, and I am not willing to steward the trauma of people who you have smelled.
Oh god. I'm not gonna creepy smell people.
Okay, don't really smell people. This has been shunned for good reason.
Go smell people.
I'm Anna.
But not creepy. I'm Tess.
And please don't smell people in creepy ways.